Hi everyone, this is Frederico Almeida de Barros. Welcome to the courtroom. Today's topic is, can you become a Brazilian Supreme Court judge? Let's check it out. But before that, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notifications and give a like to this video. Thanks everybody. Now, without any delay, the answer is probably not. Sorry guys, not a job for anybody. But then, why am I even discussing this? Well, first, let's do a quick and brief overview of the Brazilian judiciary branch. Like most Western countries, Brazil has three government branches: an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. Interestingly, in Brazil, these branches are actually called powers. There is an explanation for this, but for the sake of brevity, let's just skip this part. Under the Brazilian federal system, these branches also extend to their particular federative units. What are these units, you ask? Basically, the Brazilian Federation has three entities, which maintains a level of the government: the municipalities, which are local level entities, the states, which are regional level entities, and the federal union, the national level entity. Each entity has its unique attributes, but in the modern Brazilian framework, it is mostly the federal union who holds the great power. For the purpose of this video, let's just consider that each of these units has its own division of branches, even though it's a lot more complicated than that. So here I have taken each unit and separated by each branch of government, so you can take a closer look for the representatives of each branch. The executive branch, for example, we have the president, who is the chief of the federal executive, the state governor, who controls the state executive, and the mayor, or as we call in Brazil, the prefeito, who is responsible for the municipal executive. As we can see, in the same separation for the legislative branch, we have senators and deputies, or federal deputies. In the federal legislative, state deputies for the state legislative, and city deputies, or vereadores, for the municipal legislative. However, the judiciary branch is quite unique, as its separation is not quite like the executive and legislative branches. First, about this weird position of the judge. Can you see that they are between the municipal and state level? There is a purpose for this, but I'm not going to explain this video. Then, there is the appeal court judges, which we call desembargadores, which are in the state level. Although, as I mentioned before, there's a big caveat about this. And then, the superior court judges and the Supreme Court judges at the federal level. We call them ministros, or ministers. I'm not going to explain a lot about the difference between the superior court, yes, there's more than one, and the Supreme Court, but in essence, the Supreme Court is the only court in the country who can decide about constitutional matters as a final judgment. Although Brazil does have a diffuse constitutional challenge system, which means that any judge, as long as there is a specific request, can declare a law unconstitutional for a specific case, only the Supreme Court can actually declare a law unconstitutional with the so-called general effect, which means for everyone in the country. Well, with this very fast explanation about the Brazilian judiciary branch, pops up the question: how does one enter it? First, excluding the Supreme Court itself, the general rule is actually quite simple. To become a judge, usually there is a need to pass a public examination, basically a specific public test with multiple phases. Then, to become a desembargador, or appeal court judge, one needs to be nominated by the state government from a juridical class, that means judges, lawyers, and prosecutors. The same for the Superior Court judges, but who does the nomination is the president in this case. There are other details about these nominations, but that's not the time for discuss that. Well, how about the Supreme Court itself? Well, the Brazilian Constitution, in Article 101, states that the Supreme Court is composed by 11 judges, chosen among citizens who are between 35 and 65 years old, with a notable, read here, distinguished, juridical knowledge and unblemished reputation. However, as we can see, some of these prerequisites are quite subjective, and actual nomination process is dictated by what we call the single paragraph, or another part of the article, which states that judges of the Supreme Federal Court shall be nominated by the President after the choice is approved by an absolute majority of the Federal Senate. So even though my accent is very hard, I guess everyone could see that the President only nominates, or in this case, the better term would be appoint, someone for the Supreme Court after the choice is approved by an absolute majority of the Federal Senate. But wait, how does the Senate select a candidate? Usually, like the United States, the President selects a name to go through the appointment process in the Senate. The questioning of the candidate and its approval is popularly called in Brazil sabatina, and it's not only done for this office, but others as well. For example, the General Prosecutor of the Republic, the equivalent of the Attorney General of the United States, also pass through this process. However, as far anyone can tell, there is no specific written rule that states this is the correct and only method. We can easily see why. The nomination only occurs after the choice is approved, which means that the word used by the Constitution, nomination, is the formal act of putting someone in the office, not the selection of the candidate to participate in the process. So theoretically, as long as a candidate is approved by the Senate by a majority of the votes and has fulfilled the prerequisites, that means between 35 and 65 years old, with notable juridical knowledge, which means distinguished, and unblemished reputation, anyone could theoretically become a Supreme Court judge and be nominated by the President. But enough with theoreticals. The question is, has this have actually happened before? The answer is no, not in a chance. Since the Federal Constitution of 1988 to the present day, the Senate only have approved the candidate of the President. Also, this is very unlikely to happen. Why? I can give you 3 reasons. First, the office of a judge in the Supreme Court of Brazil requires both political backing and extensive juridical knowledge. It will be very hard to gain enough support in the Senate without one of these prerequisites. Second, breaking the standard selection protocol would be considered very controversial, and probably won't end up being discussed by the Supreme Court itself, which would rectify the situation, so probably not gonna work. Third and lastly, although not established by the law, the President could try to reject the nomination. Of course, this would be very debatable and controversial in a juridical standpoint. So, in conclusion, can you, even if you aren't Brazilian, become a Supreme Court judge in Brazil? Probably not, but you can actually try. Thanks for watching.